On the corporate example, I've worked for New York Life for many years, and 23 of those was in senior management in our home office. And our chairman of the board, Cy Sternberger, was a great guy and very hard to work for. I mean, I've heard some stories of people about how he would just tear them up. But from my perspective, when he took over, well, the first thing he did was he and his vice chairman, they took I think 2-3 days a week for the first 6 months and went out to all of the offices. New York Life's a nationwide company, and would have dinners or lunches with senior managers and senior agent representatives. And he would sit down and he'd start those meetings, because I sat in on a couple of them, and he'd say, I have no agenda. I'm going to take over this company. What do I need to know? And he was very candid and very open. And his vice chairman was writing that down, and he would challenge us. And if you said, we need to get this guy back, we need to do that, yeah, he would say, tell me why. Is he really worth the money? Do we need to do that? Do we need to do that? And then at the end of that, he came out and he came up with a list of I.O.U's.
What is that?
I.O.U. Response to these things. So he had a list of maybe 10 things that crystallized all of the issues that were out there.
That's a great thing.
And said, this is what I owe you, but in return, again, as a good leader, a visionary leader, said the whole purpose of this is to get buy-in and say, this is what you owe me once I get that done. And so I thought that was a great thing, because he said, I'll deliver on my promises, but I need you to deliver on these promises.
That is awesome. That is awesome, because I think not many leaders out there. This is the difference between the regular leader, I think, and also a visionary leader. It's so good to work with visionary leaders, because they actually challenge you. They actually say, if I give you this, this is what you're going to give me back. So It's a two-way street. It's just not about, hey, it's all about me. I'll tell you what to do, and you go do it. It's not about that. And you said so beautifully that this gentleman actually, all his actions, he mirrored them. I mean, all his expectations are mirrored in his own actions on a daily basis, and that makes a whole lot of a difference, because your teammates are watching you on a day-to-day basis, and you have to be that role model, and it gives people the reason to want to work with a visionary leader like you.
Right. Another thing he did was he sort of stood up against the tide. He was generally contrarian, whatever. And I've worked with some other very brilliant people, and they seem to say what everybody else is thinking is probably wrong. And when I'm helping people with investments, there's so much bad information out there. Generally, the herd is going in the wrong direction. But he was good to stand against the tide, and as a leading company in the industry and a leader of that, there was a whole lot of pressure from regulators and people to do different things, and the rating agencies back in the mid-'90s to change the way we're organized as a company from mutual to a stock company. The technicalities are not important, but everybody else did, and there's only a handful of mutuals left, and remaining in that form of ownership as a mutual company has really benefited us and enabled us to weather the financial storm so much better than these stock companies.
Wow.
And then finally, I think, sort of, I wouldn't expect this, but the other thing that makes me think of Cy as a visionary leader is the fact that five years before his retirement, and he didn't have to retire at 65, but he said, at 65 I'm going to retire. He put together an extremely well thought out strategy to pick a successor for him and train that successor. So he found a handful of people that could meet that criteria, moved them around the company, gave them different responsibilities, winnowed the field. And so when he passed the baton on, we had a competent manager. And the nice thing was it was not an old boy's choice thing. We had this was 5 years ago, a 42-year-old guy come in as the new chairman of the board for our company. But he had been vetted, he'd been trained, and 6 months into taking over, the financial crisis hits. So that was it was an excellent job, and you see the flip side of that, and regardless of your political persuasion, I just find it amazing that we have so many people in their 70s and 80s in Congress and in the Senate that think that they can't be replaced. They don't have the torch on. And to
It's
me, that's
scary.
yeah, that's getting so involved in thinking you're it,
Yeah.
but really letting down your constituents by saying, if you believe in this, you have an obligation to train people and continue that legacy, as opposed to writing it down until you die in the saddle.